Namaste, viewers. Welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA and Jaipur Dialogue. After a long time, we are joining Jaipur Dialogue as well in India. So, viewers, welcome to our program today. And I'm the host, Vibhuti Jha. Today, I wanted to talk to you about the third phase of election, which is coming in India, and two are over. And 4th June, everybody is very eagerly awaiting. The haters of Modi or the lovers of Modi, both are waiting very anxiously for this June 4th outcome. You are good doctors, bad doctors, and a good doctors who analyze the illness better. Likewise, in astrology, there are good analysts and then there are quacks. So, Narasimha Raoji, I apologize for this long opening, but this is important for us to understand. So, tell us. He also said one thing, and I will leave the floor to you after this, that systematically the British destroyed our ancient systems. They imposed their own, as a result of which we lost our heritage. Tell us something more about it.
I think that's true. Actually, not only the British, even before British, some of the traditional systems were basically weakened over the last millennium or so. In general, we are in Kali Yuga and we are experiencing the depth of Kali Yuga. So, lot of traditional knowledge has been lost. And particularly when the British came, the continuity is lost in families where people pursued subjects like Ayurveda, Jyotisha, Vastu, etc. They left those subjects to pursue engineering, medicine, law, and other more rewarding, more financially rewarding subjects. So, some of the secrets of the knowledge, because if you look at the Shastras, they they basically don't spoon feed you. There is certain aspects that are taught and then certain aspects that are hidden from you, that are supposed to be inferred, and that usually comes in a guru shishya parampara, and that has been broken in the last millennium in India, unfortunately. So that is one thing. And coming to the question of the efficacy of Jyotisha, whether astrology works or not, I want to push back on your example.
Okay.
Astrology does work, but the thing is, it's not 100% reliable. I like to call it a probabilistic science as opposed to a deterministic science. The reason I say that is, what the horoscope captures is your destiny as of birth. At the time of birth, what is the destiny you are carrying with you? Destiny is nothing but the sum total of all the karmas that were performed by your free will until that birth in all the previous lives, etc. But the thing is, your destiny is not frozen. Your destiny keeps evolving with every second. As you perform newer and newer actions, they add on to your destiny. So, depending on what kind of karmas you performed, they may adjust it and they may even completely remove some really bad karmas or good karmas. So, basically, practically speaking, though, the delta, the change that you add since birth is actually minuscule compared to the karmas that you're carrying over various lives. So, for many people, the actions that you have undertaken in this life are not significant enough to change the fruits of your karmas, particularly some karmas that are characterized as prarabdha karmas as opposed to sanchita karmas and agami karmas. Prarabdha karmas are those that have already begun to give their results. Basically, the arrow has already left the bow of Rudra. So those karmas you have to experience. But at least the sanchita karmas and agami karmas, you can modify them with substantial karmas that you undertake now with clear intent. For example, a lot of people do pujas, homas, yajnas, etc. And not only that, you can do social service. You can, suppose Mercury is weak in your chart, you can donate to a library, you can donate to an academic institution. Suppose Saturn is weak in your chart and there is a Saturnine problem, you can donate to slum dwellers. You can basically help the downtrodden in the society. That will make Saturn happy. Like that, there are pujas and other remedies that you can do, other action oriented remedies rather than prayers. So both of them work and they modify your karmas. So this is why Shastras say, if you look at, I think, Phaladipika of Mantreshwara, there is a nice verse there. As a matter of fact, the illustrious Dr. B.V. Raman, in his astrological magazine, on the cover page, he used to always quote this shloka. It says, Phalani grahacharena suchayanti manishinaha govakta taratamyasya tamekam vedhasam vina. What it means is, by the movement of planets, manishis, which means great persons, great beings, they indicate the results that are to be expected. But when it comes to Taratamya, means Tara and Tama, great, greater, greatest. So Tara and Tama are for those levels. So when it comes to exactly deciphering the level of success or level of failure, the degree of the result, who can say anything with certainty except Creator himself? So if you, for example, look at elections, if Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi are contesting the elections and they're possibly seen by people as the next Prime Minister of India from either side, that itself, so many people are looking at them, listening to them, being inspired by them, and voting for them. That itself is a great success. So if you look at their charts, there is some great success indicated. That itself is a great success. Now, out of those, who becomes the Prime Minister, who doesn't become the Prime Minister, who just becomes the leader of the opposition, that is basically the level, the degree of the result. And as the Phaladipika sloka says, it's not very easy. And moreover, the verse says Manishna, which means great beings. And most of them are not really great compared to the level of rishis who taught this Shastra. So that is one thing. The other thing is, because the knowledge has become corrupted, people, as you said, there are good doctors and bad doctors, similarly good astrologers and bad astrologers. But unfortunately, even when it comes to good astrologers, some of the subtle aspects of the Shastra have been corrupted. Let me give a simple example. Most of the astrologers today, probably 99%, look at a chart called Rashi chart. It is basically the same for everybody born in a 2-hour window. The Lagna changes once every 2 hours, and moon changes once every 2.5 days. So if you look at twins or triplets, and I have many examples of charts of twins and triplets who are totally different in terms of their life, course of their life. But the thing is, they will have the same Rasi chart, they will have the same dasas, they will have the same gochar, same transits, but they have totally different lives. And when you go back to the teachings of rishis like Parasar Maharshi, they taught uh, 16 different charts. Rashi, Navamsha, Dashamsha, Drekana, Chaturthamsha, Saptamsha. And they said, for various matters, if you want to look at career, look at Dashamsha. If you want to look at academic knowledge, learning, etc., look at Chaturbhimshamsha. Like that, basically, there are 16 different charts. And out of those, a chart that changes very fast, that parasasati is the most important one, that really carries the essence of your karmas. And most astrologers don't even use it, because every 2 minutes the lagna is changing. And if you combine all these 16 charts, every 24 seconds a totally different profile is born. Basically, some of these charts are changing every 24 seconds. So the bottom line is, unless you have an accurate time, you can't really use all these charts. And that is the excuse used by most astrologers. They just use Rashi and maximum Navamsha, which changes once every 15 minutes roughly. So these are not enough. You don't have enough degrees of freedom to explain the differences in the destiny of twins, triplets, etc. So we are at a new inflection point when it comes to traditional knowledge, whether it's Jyotisha, Vastu, Ayurveda, various traditional knowledge. We are at an inflection point. In the last few decades, there has been increasing research, and people who are of logical thinking, scientific bent of mind, they're getting into this subject and going back to the teachings of rishis and ignoring whatever has been taught in the mainstream, and understanding what Parasara taught, what Jaimini taught, what Bhrigu taught, and trying to basically decipher the secrets. So what I believe is, there are some secrets that rishis taught that are lost, and then there are some astrologers who just use these, what I call as tip of the iceberg principles, the superficial principles, just based on the Rashi chart and the what people call as dasha. Even though dasha basically is a way to divide life into phases. We have a Jupiter Dasha, then you have a Saturn Dasha, then Mercury Dasha. So basically, that planet controls your life during a particular number of years, particular time period. And Parasara taught tens of different Dasha systems: Vimshotri, Ashtotri, Dvadashotri, Chaturashiti, etc. But people just use one of them, Vimshottari. Whenever people say I'm running Venus Dasha, Jupiter Dasha, they mean only Vimshottari Dasha. Most astrologers don't use the other dashas, even though there are tens of dashas. So bottom line is, astrology, I believe, was a very reliable subject once upon a time. But now, because a lot of these subtle factors are lost, and secondly, because destiny itself is not frozen, it is constantly evolving, and the karmas that you have done, the kind of pujas you have done, the kind of selfless service you have done since birth, modifies your destiny. It basically adds on to your destiny. So because of these reasons, I like to call astrology a probabilistic science rather than deterministic science. So if I were to advise somebody who sees something really negative in his chart, maybe he will be right. But the thing is, I will not advise him to basically just convince himself that something terrible is going to happen. Put your best foot forward. Assume that you're missing something and still there is hope. Basically, don't use astrology to justify pessimism. Use astrology to basically be careful when you foresee bad times, and be little aggressive when you see good times. But in either case, basically use astrology to augment your logical thinking, not
Right.
to substitute your logical thinking. So having said that, when you, particularly when you come to politicians, see, for normal people, the change in the destiny since birth based on the karmas done in this birth is very minuscule for normal people. This is how I like to give an analogy where, if you think of an animal that is tied with a rope to a pole, depending on the length of the rope, the leeway that the animal has to move around the pillar is basically larger or shorter. So suppose the animal is thirsty and there is a bucket of water. So the rope is very tight, very short. It can't really reach the water and it can't basically do anything about it. Whereas if the rope is long, the animal can basically maneuver around and it can still reach the water. Similarly, depending on the the density of the karmas that you're carrying, the heaviness of the karmas you're carrying, you may have more leeway or you may have less leeway. So for 90% of humanity, the karmas are so heavy that your destiny is almost practically frozen. I mean, it's basically fixed. You can't change. But for some people, there is some leeway. But unfortunately, even those who have that leeway don't realize that leeway. They sometimes just have a tunnel vision and see that I don't have a lot of options. They don't realize what options they have. But practically speaking, most people do have some options. Whether they are significant enough is not is another issue. But now coming back to politicians, if you look at a politician who's interacting with millions of people, who has millions of people following him or her, the actions that they undertake in their capacity, they impact the lives of many people. If Narendra Modi takes a particular decision, or Amit Shah ji takes a particular decision, or Rahul Gandhi takes a particular decision as the leader of opposition to oppose a government policy or to support a government policy, to stop a bill or to let a bill go through, those decisions impact the lives of millions. So you are basically adding really large karmas to your destiny. So they will also impact your current destiny. Your
So tell
destiny
us
at the time
about
of birth is shown in the chart.
yeah. So tell us tell us the astrological impact of this election that is coming, and people are waiting breathlessly in anticipation, both sides. How do you see Prime Minister Modi emerging on June 4th, as it is anticipated, between extreme forecasts? Very
Yeah,
optimistic,
yeah,
very pessimistic. So go ahead, sir.
yeah. I think Sri Amit Shah ji predicted that BJP will get 400 plus seats, and a lot of people expect BJP to get 400 plus seats, and many expect them to at least get 350 seats. But the thing is, when I look at when I compare 2014 May 16, and then 2019 May 23, and then 2024 June 4, when I compare those dates and how the stars are aligned, what the stars are indicating for BJP and Amit Shah ji and Narendra Modi ji, what I see is that people may be overestimating the amount of success that BJP will get. I do expect BJP to win. Rahul Gandhi's chart does not show becoming prime minister or being in any serious position of power ever. So, and moreover, if you look at India's charts, there are some long-term mundane charts that you make for countries to see long-term trends for the countries. And based on those charts, 2020 to 2036 is a time of great change in the world. It is once in a millennium change in geopolitical equations kind of time. There will be huge geopolitical transformation in this period, and this is a great time for India. Of course, there will be suffering when there is a large transformation. There will be suffering across the world. There will be chaos and suffering in this period, 2020 to 2036. But the thing is, this is the time of rise for India, and especially the second half of this decade and the next decade are times of unprecedented rise for India. Going back to the pristine position that India occupied in the Committee of Civilizations a millennium back or a couple of millennia back. So it is that kind of time for India. So that kind of promise can be fulfilled only if BJP is back. So that is one thing. So in general, from India's perspective, I don't see a change. I see the current trajectory of the last decade continuing. But looking at Narendra Modi's chart, BJP and Amit Shahji's chart on June 4th, 2024, what I expect is the level of success will not be more than 2019 success in my purely astrological assessment. Of course, like I said earlier, the destiny is modified. What I see in the chart, birth chart, and this annual charts, transits, dashas, etc., can be modified by the karmas done since birth. And Narendra Modi has definitely done some very positive karmas. And moreover, pujas. When you talk about pujas and rituals, not only he, see the sadhanas that he undertook before the Ayodhya Pran Pratishtha, those are not easy sadhanas. And going to various temples and then fasting for several days, and the anushthan that he did is really, it will definitely give its result. And moreover, consecrating Ayodhya is one of the 7 major pilgrimage centers for moksha in Hindu Dharma. So re-establishing Ayodhya as a pilgrimage center is tremendous punya. And of course, there are haters. So there is a lot of negative energy also coming in, but also there are a lot of well-wishers and a lot of positive energy coming in. And moreover, I know that many priests and Swamiji, Santlok, yogis, they are praying for his win. So all this will definitely add. So it is possible that what I say here will be wrong and they will actually get 350 or 400, but purely based on his charts, what I see astrologically is the level of success will not be more than 2019 success. It will be between 2014 and 2019, and it may be closer to 2014 level than to 2019 level. So if you look at the numbers, actual numbers, I think in 2014 they got 282 seats, and there were 54 other seats from the other NDA partners.
Yes.
And in 2019 they had, I think, 303
Right.
seats, and then there were another 50 seats from the other NDA partners. So probably NDA partner seats will be similar, but the BJP seats itself, probably it will be between 282 and 303. I suspect it will be between 280 and, purely astrologically, without other factors considered, between 280 and 290 is what I expect, just based on astrology and the charts of Narendra Modi ji and Amit Shah ji mainly, and secondarily the BJP chart. In general, the party charts, I don't rely on them that much because they're not very reliable. When the party started, when the party basically took its first breath, it's very difficult to define. So people have some charts that go around, but they're not reliable. But I can rely on the charts of Rahul Gandhi, Narendra Modi ji, and Amit Shah ji. So based on those charts, my expectation is something along the lines of 280, 290. But I hope I'm wrong and it is 350, 400 range, or even more than 400.
And that's in my opinion, as a sportsman and as an observer of things, I always say that you do not enter a war by telling that I will cut the head of my enemy or I will win the match by 1 innings or whatever. You go and play and you ensure your win. So I'm very heartened, and I'm also sure that all the viewers are happy to know that, astrologically speaking, Prime Minister Modi's party and NDA are coming back to power, which is good. The margin is a different matter. That can be affected, as you said, because of karma, dharma, puja and everything else, right?
Yes.
So this is probably Prime
Yes.
Minister knew about this part. That's why he has done those penances. That's why he has done those pujas and maintained those observations. So the man is a karma yogi that I know. I have called him a karma yogi way back in 2014 election. Now you
Actually, I
said
want to
something.
interrupt you and say one thing there. I want to
Yes,
interrupt you and
please.
say one thing there.
Yeah.
Based on the chart of Sri Narendra Modi ji, he's a very, very, very spiritually evolved soul. I'm very confident based on his chart that he has a high level of detachment in what he does, high level of vairagya.
Right.
He's you use the word karma yogi. That is indeed what the horoscope reflects. He's a very high caliber karma yogi who who will do his best when it comes to serving others and serving the country. But at any moment when the inner voice tells him this is it, now move on, he can just cut it off, pass the baton to somebody else, just go and just focus his mind on God and sadhana. So he's basically, see, if you look at sannyasis who are heading various mars, some sannyasis may not have that level of detachment. They may be yearning for success, recognition, and their mud basically taking off in a big way. So in Kali Yuga, even being a sannyasi or being a swami is not easy. Many
Not
people,
easy.
there are outward detachment that you can put a show off, but inward there can be lot of attachments. And this man, based on the chart, he has very very high level of detachment, and he was put in this place, put in this position because this is India's time to rise. So you use the right word, he's genuinely a karma yogi.
Thank you very much, because this is what I called him. The reason why I said in 2014 in the New York television show, when people asked me that, why do you suspect he will win? I said, because he's a karma yogi. I had said it then. Second thing that I will say here is that I think, in my opinion, since we are all estimating the margin of victory, I think through his karma and through his birth chart and everything else, he will get 350 for sure from my point of view. How much more or up and down it happens is a different function altogether. Having said that, I also wanted to ask you about Rahul Gandhi. But before I go to Rahul Gandhi, I want to ask you one thing. You said something very remarkable, that he's a truly sattvic soul. He has the ability to have a detached attachment or an attached detachment with things, but move on, right? It's not easy because we are human beings. We remain emotionally connected. We don't forget things. How do you see that there are so many Hindus here who call him bad names? You know, Modi didn't do this, Modi didn't do that. How, at a normal level of voters or people who get frustrated so easily, what can he do from the karmic point of view to tell them, can't you see the bleeding obvious?
He can't do anything. The
He
thing
can't do
is,
anything.
because loko bhinaruchi, everybody comes to this world with different vasanas, different runas. So if you have a runa to this leader versus this leader, you will just be attached to, see, you may have seen when you meet some people for the first time, even though you don't know them, you just take a liking to them, you just feel good about them. When you meet certain people, you just don't like them, even if there's no tangible or objective reason to not like them, you just don't like them. So this is because of the purva janma connections, runas, etc. So if a person has done harm to you in the last life or benefited you in the last life, you tend to be nice to them, or you tend to be bad to them, mean to them in this life, even if there's no clear reason. So in other words, the connections and runas from the previous life are ingrained in your brain, in your mind, in your chitta, as those subconscious or supraconscious vasanas. So you are not aware of it at a logical level, but they just impact how you look at things. So for that reason, people like Rahul Gandhi, Arvind Kejriwal, all these people, Mamta Banerjee, they will have their own supporters who have run out to them. So that is one aspect of it. Second aspect is, if you take great kings and great leaders of the past, they were detractors even for them. Forget about leaders. Look at gods. Look at Sri Krishna. People called him Mayavi when he was alive. Though Arjuna, Dharmaraja, etc., knew that he was God, And Bhishma, who was fighting on the other side, he knew that Krishna was Narayana himself. There were so many people who believed that he is just a trickster. They called him Mayavi, and they basically even dared to fight against him. So when gods, whether Rama and Krishna, are not beyond people's skepticism, suspicion, and hatred, what about a human being? However great he may be. So the thing is, he can't really do anything to change their minds. And let's also look at one thing. Talking about the margin, I know that people want a huge margin so that you can make huge changes in India. But the thing is, you you look at the current times that we are living in. Since 2020, we had COVID, and after COVID, the whole supply chain disruptions in the world. So world is readjusting. World economy is still struggling. It's not. There's no clear equilibrium yet. World is trying to find a new equilibrium that existed before 2020. So world is really chaotic. Lot of countries are struggling, and similarly, India is also struggling. Irrespective of what you may see in the mainstream media or social media, there are a lot of people whose lives are not really that great, who are in spite of. See, it takes a lot of effort and many years to bring a civilization up after it was suppressed systematically for a millennium. I'm not just talking about the Britishers. I'm talking about from 900 AD or so. So it is not really easy to fix everything in a day. It takes a long time, and even though he's putting the best effort in, for some people it may not be enough to change their life. So there will be people who are upset with the way their lives are going. So that is one thing. And then there is propaganda. You have various Western networks that are colluding with the Eastern media, and then they are pushing this narrative that if Modi comes, democracy is dead, he's a dictator, and all that. And also, India is becoming a Hindu majoritarian fascism. So all these narratives, unfortunately, most people don't have time to look at all the facts. They don't have either the capacity, intellectual capacity, or time to look at all the factors, judge them, and draw a conclusion by themselves. They just follow a certain media house. So there is a lot of concerted propaganda against Modi ji over the last few years. And particularly look at it this way. If somebody has been in power for 2 terms, 10 years, if they are going to be in power for another term, that's basically the end of the other side, opposition. So even if it's not a 400 majority, even if it's only 290 majority, still that's a lot basically. So uh, this is an existential threat to the opposition in India, particularly the Congress party and Rahul Gandhi. This is an existential threat. So there is no wonder that there are a lot of forces that are colluding to make sure that Modi ji doesn't win another term. But the thing is, his chart has enough power to bring him up. And then if the prayers add to it, it'll be even bigger win.
So nice to hear that. And this is what the thing is. I will come to now Rahul Gandhi thing, because that he's a peculiar character. Why I say that is that I find that he has become a psychological case, because his whole life is a drama. If you look at it, recent pictures that went about, that in Maharashtra, he virtually insulted the shawl that was put on him. He wiped his nose with that. The Shivaji's or Sambhaji's statue was given. He just told them to take it away. There was a tremendous amount of anger for his Janeudhari roop. But my thought process, what do you see him there for? Doesn't somebody advise him, walk away? Doesn't somebody tell him enough is enough? Take a retirement, get married, go to Italian beach, Rivera, enjoy yourself? What is his destiny? What is his karma?
Okay.
What is his role? Please, if you can.
Okay, let me put it in simple words. His destiny is to make sure that Modi ji keeps winning. Basically, see, given the uncertain times that the world is in, see, people don't realize that India is better off compared to rest of the world. People see all the changes, all the chaos around them, there are certain sections of the society that will be unhappy. They're not smart enough to know that India is actually better off. Rest of the world is struggling even more. So if there was a more competent opposition leader, this would have been actually even more difficult for BJP. It is
Right.
excellent that Rahul Gandhi is on the other side. Now looking at his chart, I actually, lot of people hate him, lot of people see him as evil. Based on his chart, my impassionate assessment is he's just a lost soul. He has no clue what he's doing. You said why don't they give up? If he's given that choice, I really believe that he would have been happy to just not do this, not be in politics, just leave and be in a beach and just have fun. See, if you look at his chart is not really a great chart. If you look at his see, some astrologers actually think that since 2019 election, some astrologers have been predicting that he will win because if you use his Rasi chart, it has Rahu in the fifth house of power in own house. He's very strong, and Rahu Dasha is running because people just use Vimshottari Dasha as I said, and based on that Vimshottari Dasha, it is Rahu Dasha from 2018 till 2036. So I know that many astrologers believe that Rahu Dasha will bring him to power, but the thing is, Rasi chart is like I said, it is shared by everybody born in a 2 hour period. So all that it shows is that he is in a powerful position. He's the leader. He's a leader that many people know about. He has some fame. But the Samsa, the chart that actually shows the career, that is pretty weak. Lagna Lord is debilitated, and Lagna is Tula. Lagna Lord is debilitated, and he basically is running the Dasha of Lagna Lord, who's debilitated in the 12th house of loss, giving up. And if you look at his Navamsa chart, which shows your subtle personality, your dharma, etc., the Lord of the house of dharma is in 8th house, which is not good for dharma. He's not a dharmic person. When he says, I'm a Janayodhari, he goes and sits in meditation for a pose. He's not really religious. Forget about Hinduism. Even as a Christian or as a or some other religion, follower of some other religion, he's not really religious. He's really, based on his chart, he's really a lost soul. There is a chart called Nakshatramsa, which changes every 3 minutes or so. So that chart shows your subtle strengths and weaknesses. What the chart shows is somebody who basically just wants to relax, do nothing, and somebody who's not intelligent at all. His intellect, the planet that shows his intellectual caliber is afflicted by Saturn and Ketu, who are planets of depletion. So he has no intellectual acumen. He's not really a smart person, but he's not a bad person. He's surrounded by bad people. The people who are guiding him, they may be bad people. He's just the way I look at it, a lost soul, an innocent man who just can't walk away from this, who's basically put in this position. They keep brainwashing him. These are the lines you have to say. This is how you have to behave. Then you can become the next prime minister. He can't really. He's like a child who's put in this big bad world. He's just navigating it as best as he can, but he basically has no capacity to do this. So I kind of pity him rather than hate him, and he's just a lost soul, having to do things that he has no ability to. And unfortunately, if Sonia Gandhi ji had given up on him, they found some other capable leader in Congress, they could have given better fight to BJP in the 2019 elections or even now or in future. But the thing is, it is a blessing in disguise for BJP that this incompetent man is leading the party. He's not really a psychopath, or he's not doing all this consciously. He's just sleepwalking through. It's like a child who's given a role in a drama that he doesn't understand. He doesn't even understand the dialogue that he's given. The scriptwriter has given him dialogue. He keeps forgetting the dialogues and mixes up dialogues, and he just keeps sleepwalking through the drama. He's like a kid in a drama like that. That is the way I look at him based on his horoscope. Of course, there are a lot of people because of the Runas. Of course, he's born in this family with this kind of following because there are some previous karmas in previous lives. So obviously there'll be followers, etc., who have runa to him, who are drawn towards him. They instinctively believe that he's a good man. He's idealistic. He will change India for good, etc. But the thing is, based on chart, he will never become prime minister of India. He will never have any powerful position. But the thing is, he'll be around for a few more years. But after 2027, from 2028 onwards, there is a chance that they will move on from him. Basically, if I look at the chart, if I look at his dasas, there is a chance after 2027. But until then, he will be in limelight and he will basically have to do all this drama. It's not that he loves it; he's just going through motions. He's just sleepwalking through a role given to him by his mother, other leaders, and it's a blessing in disguise for BJP. There's no reason to be. See, look at all his talk of wealth redistribution, all his talk of uh, if he
Caste
opens his
census.
mouth,
Yeah.
cash
Yeah,
census.
yeah. Every
If
time
he
he
opens
opens
his
his
mouth,
mouth, people say that he's campaigning for BJP. He's the best
yeah,
campaigner for BJP.
even if
That's
the
right.
thing is, if you look at the ideas behind those concepts, if they're articulated correctly, they can actually be destructive. They can basically cause problems for BJP. But the thing is, even when there is a think tank that is coming up with some nice ideas that they can use to exploit certain vote banks, he's not smart enough to articulate it correctly. He is not an articulate person at all. Based on his chart, he has a debilitated planet in the second house in Nakshatramsa, who shows somebody who has no capacity for intelligent speech, coherent speech. So, but the thing is, he's just doing his best in the position that is forced on him. So I kind of pity him. I don't really hate him, but the thing is, I don't see him as a successful leader ever. He has no leadership qualities at all in the chart. He's just a see his Navamsa Lagna Lord is in one house and the ninth Lord is in one house. So basically, it shows fortunate birth. He's born in a good family. But the thing is, see, we have in astrology we have so-called Nijapanga Rajogas. You struggle and then you come up, and then there are Rajabhanga Niche Yogas, which are basically you are born in a great royal family and then you lose everything. So this is the second type chart. So I kind of pity the guy.
No, I mean
He's in
you are
an
totally right. I
enviable
mean I don't hate him. I don't hate him. What you said very beautifully in a poetic way that he's a lost soul. I call him the man has no identity of his own. And he has no identity of his own because he's a confused. I call him the India born confused desi. I think he's
IBCD.
IBCD, not ABCD.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that, he can't have his own identity. From Nehru to Indira, who married a Feroz, to his father, who then automatically is not a Hindu. He's
Yeah.
he's what he is. Then he marries a Catholic woman. So he is what? He doesn't know. That's why
Mhm.
what you see, there are more pretensions in his behavior than actual involvement in what he does. So
Yeah.
he is the fourth generation, classic case of the wealth inheritance that we say, that third generation onwards, the families and they begin a decline. This is the classic example of the decline part. Having
Yeah.
said that,
Unfortunately, if they moved on from him, didn't force politics on him, he would have found some way to be happy in life. But unfortunately, politics is not his cup of tea.
and
He's
that's
not
the
smart. He
reason,
doesn't have street smarts.
yeah,
Even when
that's
you
the
give him
reason why
lines,
he
he will
makes the
confuse the
statements
lines.
like, sorry. We had a crisscross. That's the reason why he makes statements like "Aloo idhar se dalenge, udhar se sona aayega." Who does he want to fool? I want to come to you with another conversation
I
on
mean, look
this.
at his Kasparov thing. When they asked him about chess, God knows how good a chess player he is. But the thing is, he says, "Who's your favorite player?" He said he likes Kasparov. When they asked him, "Who's your favorite chess player?" he said, "Who's the greatest chess player in your opinion?" He said, "Me." He could have just said Vishwanath Anand or Kasparov. Just moved on. He just became a butt of joke. There were so many memes. I think the other day Kasparov himself tweeted on him. He
Yes,
basically gave me a pun about Raebareli.
very
So
true.
the thing is,
Yeah,
I
very
don't think
true.
he does it consciously. He's just they are feeding him some lines and some thoughts, etc. And he doesn't know how to process them. He's not smart enough to see. If you look at somebody like Annamalai, he's very quick on his feet. Narendra Modi ji, Yogi ji, Annamalai, these are all people who are quick on their feet. They can basically process a lot of information. They are intelligent. They can say coherent things, articulate. This man is not like that. He can't think. He's not quick on his feet. He can't think. He can't speak coherently. Unfortunately, there are family compulsions and political compulsions which put him in this position. So it's a win. It's basically a blessing in disguise for BJP. I lost your audio.
Everybody agrees that he is the best campaigner for BJP, so don't let him go abroad. But
Yeah.
one thing why I wanted to say, very interesting enough, because you said that Rahu Dasha in his own house, the fifth house, is in dominance. Interestingly enough, his name also is Rahul. So Rahu is in his name too. Very interesting coincidence here. Now I wanted to come to you with a very important thought. Rahul Modi on one side, Bharat ka bhavishya, the fortune of India. You said that 2020 to 2036, India is on the rise. You will be happy to know that on this show, with Sanjay ji and I said myself, we have talked about it. This century belongs to India and Sanatan. The
Yeah.
question is, will we take that message forward? Will we stand for it? My favorite theme is Satyameva Jayate. If you want Satya to win, then you have to stand, arise, and fight for it. How do you see Indians being getting energized to do things for India? Is one thing is to know that I'm in a nice sunshine state of mind, but there is a thing called that you have to develop your body and your mind to be successful. God-given endowment is there, but what do we do with it to develop it is the most important part. Where do you see that happening as a country?
Yeah. I As I said earlier, I see the period from 2020 from 2020 till 2036 as a very very important period geopolitically, and this is a period when the equations change. The top countries become bottom countries become top countries, and so on. And I do see that India is the next superpower. And basically, let me put it this way: the way I look at it, what what happened to UK in 1940s and 1950s? Because UK was the unquestioned superpower of the world, number one, numero uno of the world before then. And in 1940s and 1950s, it became the second rung power. And then US and Russia ascended to the supreme position. They became the number one countries. And I believe that we are going to witness the same kind of transformation between 2020 and 2036. And I expect US to become like UK of 1940s and 1950s. It will not fade away. It will not go away. It will still remain powerful enough, but it will become second rung superpower like UK did in 1940s and 50s. On the other hand, Germany, Italy, and Japan, they were seeming to take over UK in 1920s, 1930s.
Whole of Europe and the world, yes.
World, yeah. But the thing is,
Yeah.
they became so aggressive because of their ascendancy, and then they just lost the plot. They just weakened. And I see China and Russia of today as the new Germany and Italy and Japan. So China will become really dominant. They will see that it is their opportunity to topple USA, and then China will become aggressive. And as a result, over this decade and a half, China will actually disintegrate into multiple parts, and China will weaken. So in this whole fight between US on one hand, US and NATO on one hand, and China and Russia on the other hand, India will rise. India and Israel, I see as the next superpowers, just like USA and USSR in the 1940s and 50s, they rose. I see India will rise. But the thing is, any such huge transformation will accompany a lot of pain. So during this decade, we will see a lot of pain. There is another thing I want to say. See, if you look at the last decade, in 1920, we had the 1918 to 19, we had a huge pandemic that affected the most of the world, and then some flu epidemic. And then after that, in 1930, there was a economic crash, the depression. And then as a result of that, between late 1930s and 1944, there was a big world war. So whatever happened in those 20 years, that cycle will play out this time between 2020 and 2031 or so. So this is a shortened cycle because now world is more connected, so things will happen faster. So in 2020 we had the epidemic, and that changed, disrupted a lot of things. And mid this decade, not this year, but later this decade, we'll have a big financial meltdown. And then basically all bets will be off, and basically people trying to occupy whatever they can. So China becoming more aggressive in the Taiwan region, and some of the wars that we have seen basically growing bigger and bigger, and everything converging into a one major war. So in late 2030 and 2031 time period, it's very likely that there will be a major war. So during all this, fortunately, just like USA was not touched by most of it for much of the period, got involved very late in the game after the Pearl Harbor. Similarly, India will be relatively untouched by this conflict between NATO, USSR, Israel, Middle Eastern countries, Islamic countries, China, Taiwan, North Korea. So between all these conflicts, India will be relatively untouched. Of course, in a global world, there will be impact, but India will be relatively better off. And one more thing I expect is, based on Narendra Modi's chart, right now he's highly motivated to serve the country. But the thing is, in late 2025 2026 period, I expect changes in his attitude. He will start thinking more about spiritual progress, and he will think of passing on the baton. And I do see Yogi Adityanath as the next prime minister. So one thing I predicted in his first term itself, Narendra Modi's first term itself, is that he will win 3 terms, and he will not finish the third term. He will voluntarily pass the baton to somebody else in the third term, and take leave active politics. So in 26 or 27 time period, at least 2028, basically before the next elections, he will. I expect that he will pass on the prime ministership to Yogi Adityanath. They will give him more visibility. They will raise his profile in the coming couple of years and prepare him for the job, train him for the job, because you need certain skills to do this job. So they will train him for this job, and they will pass on the job to him. And Narendra Modi ji will focus on his spiritual activity, spiritual sadhana. He may remain in passive politics, but basically not in active politics. And what I see is, in Yogi Adityanath's chart, he will lead India to great heights. Narendra Modi ji created the platform. See, one thing is, for dharma to flourish, for people to be dharmic, first there has to be material well-being. If the if you don't have money to feed yourself, you can't really think of God. So that is what happened to India. India flourished materially, as well as it was a spiritual giant. But during the last millennium, India was systematically looted. So when people are poor, there's no point in telling them about God. That is why, if you look at Ramakrishna Mission, they focus more on serving people than serving the hungry and needy, rather than teaching them spirituality. That also can be done, but serving people is more important. So what Modi ji is doing is creating an environment where India is competitive. India can stand up to any other country, including USA, and India is powerful financially, militarily, and technologically. So this, based on this platform, Yogi ji will take it further, and he will take some aggressive decisions in his term when he takes over from Narendra Modi ji, and also wins again in 2029. And again, I don't expect him to finish, do one more term. He will win in 2029. There will be huge changes in the world, and he will lead capably, just like FDR led USA in World War II. He will basically lead India to great success, and India will be seen as a superpower in his term, and then he will pass it on to somebody else. I don't know who yet. So the thing is, it will be Yogi ji's time when India will really have the rise. Narendra Modi is just creating the environment and infrastructure and platform for that. And if you see, lot of sadhus have given a, a prediction in the past that a sannyasi will lead India to great dominance, and I expect that Yogi Adityanath is that sannyasi.
I'm 100% sure that people who are listening to this just now will be extremely happy with this particular analysis of yours, that Yogi ji will be the next man to take the India to greater heights. And Modi ji has done the superb ground ceremonies and laying down the foundation. And you said it very correctly, that you have to be strong to be respected. Nobody respects the weak. And that
Yeah.
Modi ji has laid the foundation. There's another thing which I wanted to say this here is, is that the signs of India's being on the mainframe is all there. Now, you know, I do not know if the viewers know about it or not. While in India, we are enamored by American and British names for our housing colonies and our apartment buildings called Beverly Hills, Park Place, and all that. I want to show you something. This is a body cream. Its brand is Durga. Think about it. It's Durga. I also want to tell you there is a very high scale, upscale, website marketing a spiritual clothing under the banner of Maharishi. One of the most prominent bed frames is called Sattva.
Yep.
And one of the most prominent Vedic products which are sold as is called Avaid. While West is embracing our concepts, our name, it's time for us to embrace it ourselves. Name the building Mahalakshmi instead of calling Beverly Hills. You don't become Beverly Hills because of that. The one thing which I also wanted to talk about here is that as this election ends, Modi ji is there in power and India's new change happens. There are a lot of people who are trying to disrupt the process globally. It's not isolated, one here, one Khalistani here, one Pakistani there. It's a global effort to undermine Hindu practices. How does an ordinary Indian deal with that kind of an onslaught? Because after all, you and I are ordinary people. We are simple human beings living a life. Everybody leads a life of his own. How does that person get motivated to accept that challenge and take that baton and run forward?
My 2 cents are, first of all, as far as the external efforts to disrupt Modi ji and his agenda is concerned, this has peaked in the last 2 years. Like I said earlier, you just can't allow him to win the third term. So that is their thinking. So once he is now, as far as regular people are concerned, Hindus, whether in India or whether outside of India are concerned, as far as their practice of Hinduism, their practice of the rituals of Sanatana Dharma, various practices of Sanatana Dharma are concerned, the mainstream attitude is of ridiculing it. The mainstream attitude of it is that there are some other religions that came in Kali Yuga which are more enlightened, and Hinduism is a very backward, retrogressive religion, and basically looking down upon Hindu practices. And a lot of Hindus also lack self-esteem. But I'm not worried about this. I don't want this to be the main focus for the next decade. India should focus on material well-being. Even if you forget dharma, even if you forget spirituality, don't worry. It's in our DNA. It's in our our brain DNA. It's in our karmic vasanas. So it will come back. Don't worry about it. Let Indians work hard. Be karma yogis. See, Shastras also say, Yoga, Gita says, Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Whatever work you are doing, being fully focused and putting the best effort in your work is yoga. That is one definition. Other is, as Patanjali Yoga Sutras say, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So basically, your vasanas, whatever they are pushing you to do, being able to resist it is yoga. So there are various definitions. So let Karma Yoga dominate. Let people focus on work. Even if they forget God, forget pujas, forget rituals, no big deal. This will come back in the second half of this decade, particularly towards 2030. As I said, when world is in a turmoil, when it seems like there's going to be a major war, automatically people will turn to God. So don't worry about all this. I'm not also worried about Islam, Christianity, because they're aggressive. They're trying to convert people. This is all transient in my view. This is all temporary. They have their own challenges. There will be agnostics and atheists who will challenge those religions in their own lands. So forget about all this. It is time for India to rise materially, create wealth. If you are strong technologically, militarily, and financially, then you will be respected. And that is how British did not have a better religion, did not have anything better. They just basically had the latest technology at that time. They overtook the Indian kings. So be up to date in technology, especially the next war will be very heavy on cyber aspect. So basically build all the military, cyber military capabilities, build wealth, and distribute the wealth, make sure that there are more people out of the line of poverty. So create wealth, and automatically when people are happy, they automatically turn towards, okay, what is the purpose of life? What am I here for? Just to make money. So if one generation is focused on wealth, next generation will focus on, because they have enough wealth, they will focus on God. These are all natural cycles. And in any case, based on India's chart, I'm confident that late 2020s and 2030s will be a renaissance, spiritual and dharmic renaissance, and renaissance in various traditional subjects like Vastu, Jyotisha, Ayurveda, etc. So I'm not worried about all those. The work will go on in background by people who are interested in keeping it alive, and the research to find the hidden jewels and lost secrets will go on. But to make it mainstream and for people to be engaged more in dharma, I think there is still time. Let them focus on material prosperity, in my opinion.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful conversation about spirituality, astrology. And I want to ask you, do you see in your horoscope and your chart setting up advanced institute of astrology and Ayurvedic and stuff like that? Because those education have been dumped, ridiculed by the British. Do you see in your chart to assume the leadership role in setting up advanced institutes of Ayurvedic and Ayurvedic astrological sciences?
It is possible. It is possible.
Yeah.
Starting from Mercury, Jupiter, Antardasha, about three Antardashas: Mercury, Jupiter, Mercury, Saturn, Mercury. Sorry, Venus, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, and Venus, Mercury are particularly good for me because they all give various Rajogas on the second house and eighth house axis. Eighth house is occult knowledge, and second house is Jyotisha particularly. And I have Jupiter in the second house of Jyotisha. So, and Venus is the lord of that house. His dasha is running. So it is possible, particularly from 2027 to 2035 time frame. But the thing is, my attitude is simple: just do the work, figure out. Before I make something popular and spread knowledge, I have to be convinced myself. And over the last, I started learning astrology when I was 7 years old from my father. So, and I started serious progress from 1993 when I discovered that 99% of what Parasara taught is not used by people. People are just sticking to the tip of the iceberg. So I've been trying to refine my understanding. Fortunately, I have Sanskrit knowledge. I'm a Sanskrit Bhasha Kovida and Sanskrit Bhasha Visarda exams I passed when I was 12 years, 11 years, and 12 years of age. So at a young age, I learned Sanskrita. I passed these exams equivalent to BA. So I don't rely on translations by others. I look at the sloka, and then sometimes translators have made terrible mistakes, silly mistakes. So I'm reconstructing the knowledge myself now. So that is the focus. And I expect that towards the end of this decade and next decade, I may be more active, and that may be a more important period in my Jyotish activities. But the thing is, I want to focus on now. Who knows what the future is
That's right.
has in store for you? Even astrologers, like I said in the beginning, we only indicate, but the level, the degree of the results, we cannot know with certainty. But that time is more interesting. So I'll just keep going. I'll just keep
So
researching,
one
defining the
final
knowledge for
question.
myself, and sharing with you people now and then.
One final question here I come to my mind. You have been very generous and very humble in saying that we all make mistakes and all that. Which one of your astrological forecasts that you realized that, oh my God, how did I miss that? Share that with the audience if you can. Any
Sure.
particular thing that
Uh,
comes to your mind like that?
yeah. See, I think Karnataka election prediction was my biggest failure. I was in such a hurry to make a prediction, and I used charts that I did not vet thoroughly. Basically, whatever charts I was given for the players in the Karnataka election, I just accepted them. I made a prediction of BJP win. So that was basically my biggest failure. The thing is, you can't accept charts. See, Narendra Modi's chart, I was given a chart by astrologers. I did not accept it. I waited a few years, and finally, when the chart was given by his brother to a professor in BHU, and then it came to me, that added up. So after I verified that so many events in his life from long back are making sense with this chart, then I accepted that chart. So like that, in charts where I was successful, for example, Kejriwal, when I predicted that I predicted in 2021 that in 2020, after 2023 August, a period of year is terrible for him. There is a big downfall in his career. He will get in serious trouble before the elections of 2024. So that chart, again, there are multiple versions on the internet. People, basically astrologers, use different charts. I waited a year and a half before convincing myself that yeah, this is the correct chart. It came from good sources and also it added up. So without doing all that, I just accepted the chart and made a confident prediction. And a lot of people see, even though I keep saying that astrology is a probabilistic science, after you make several good predictions, people develop that trust in you. So a lot of people were really disappointed when Karnataka happened. I myself. So that was my worst prediction. And there is another prediction. There is a different reason. For Mamta Banerjee, I expected from last year onwards basically a downfall for her. So I expect that BJP will start making more progress in West Bengal from this cycle onward, and Mamta Banerjee's days are numbered. But the thing is, I was aggressive in predicting that just like Kejriwal, she'll be in serious trouble. But one thing I did not realize is she does a lot of pujas. Whether you like her or not, whatever publicly she says, she has priests doing serious rituals for her. Baglamukhi, she herself does Chandi part. So there are, when somebody does serious pujas, it can delay the fruits of your bad karmas. So that's basically the level of sadhana that somebody does. You have to also take it into account. So that I did not really take into account. But the thing is, I think from a long-term perspective, that prediction is probably still on track, even though it did not exactly happen around the
Got
time that I
got it.
expected. But Karnataka was my biggest regret. I After that I concluded that unless I'm confident of the chart, see, even Yogiji's chart, even the data of birth that is on the internet is not right. If you look at Wikipedia, there's a date of birth. It's wrong. The date of birth is wrong. The time basically that people use on the internet is wrong. So I got it from his family directly, from a BJP source, somebody reliable, somebody who has insight. So I got a reliable chart. Then it added up. Whatever I know about him publicly, and also people told me know him intimately, told me about him, because sometimes in politics, your persona is not what you actually are. You project something for political reasons, but inside you are a different person. So everything that I know about that person, from insiders as well as from himself, from outside information, is making sense. So then I predicted that Yogi will be the next prime minister. So usually I wait enough time, I make sure that the chart is explaining things, but I did not do the due diligence with Karnataka. So that is my biggest failure. But one thing I'll tell
Okay,
you,
that's
even if you
you
do
said
due
it once,
diligence,
and I admire that. I admire that part of it, because it's also important for people to know that we all go wrong. Like this doctor friend of mine told me,
yeah,
this
yeah,
astrology is just like medicine. But very interesting, from a surgeon, the
yeah,
statement came that we are still discovering the human body. So we
yeah,
are
that's
also
true.
not certain. So that's why
That's
there
true.
are good doctors, bad doctors.
Yeah.
Swamiji, Narasimha Raoji, so good to see you today. Good to have this conversation. Very enthralling, and it's very spiritual, because there is so much to know, so much we do not know. So thank you very much, viewers. Please like, subscribe, and support our channel, both channels, Jaipur Dialogue and Jaipur Dialogue USA, the Jaipur Dialogue USA, because we are doing the same work here as well. Thank you. Satyameva Jayate. Thank you.